And I will, in fact, ask Jack Elsom about it in a second, the political editor of The Sun. But I want to just talk about another story. This is the Chancellor failing to rule out tax rises. She spoke to Radio 5 Live earlier on today about this.
Have been really clear that we are looking at both taxes and spending as part of this budget. The economic circumstances have deteriorated since a year ago because of those conflicts, because of those trade barriers, and as a result, we are having to look at taxes and spending, and it's got to be both of those things. And the speech I made last week was about setting the context for the budget, which is a difficult one. And I think people can see that, and they understand why this is a difficult budget and why there are things that have happened in the last year that we couldn't have foreseen a year ago.
Jack Elsom is The Sun's political editor. Jack, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Peter.
Conflicts, trade barriers, those are clearly the big issues. Absolutely nothing to do with anything Rachel Reeves has done, her mismanagement of the economy, putting up national insurance, killing jobs. Nothing to do with her, of course. It's all external factors. That's the reason she has to put up taxes, isn't it?
Yes, totally. And we saw it last week, and we're seeing it again now. Rachel Reeves embarking on a circular firing squad blame game of absolutely everyone but herself. She blames Brexit. She blames the OBR. She blames the Tories. She blames Donald Trump. She blames other tariff barriers.
I think it's your fault, Jack. I think it's your fault.
Well, I'm sure that everyone on this planet will come in for some sort of criticism at the moment until there's only one person left, and that's when she that's when she needs to look in the mirror, because there have been, I think, serious failings over the last year. And listen, I do understand, I do appreciate that this is challenging economic times, and lots of countries around the world are grappling with this. But, and it is a big but, large parts of the economy and the state of the economy clearly. And you hear this from businesses day after day after day. I mean, your and my inbox will probably be absolutely filled with various business groups saying that the national insurance hike last year and some of the other, unbusiness friendly measures that have come in is really hampering their growth and productivity. And so clearly she needs to accept this. I don't think she will accept this. And it looks like, again, we're going to have a budget of pretty meaty tax rises. And, businesses is one thing, and clearly business taxes feed down to consumers. But the fact she is now considering pressing the nuclear button and ripping up that manifesto pledge not to raise income tax, she'd be raising it for the first time in 50 years. I don't think she quite understands yet just how politically toxic that will be if she ends up doing it.
And complete 180 on exactly what she'd done before. You're right, she does need to look into the mirror and say, magic mirror on the wall, who's the unfairest of them all when it comes to taxation. I want to talk about the BBC now. The organisation clearly in crisis with Tim Davie resigning. Lots of political reaction to this as well, not least from President Trump threatening to sue them for $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, it's crisis time at the BBC. They've clearly, it has felt, to be fair, in a state of perma-crisis these past few years, and they just seem to lurch from one scandal to the next, but clearly now back in the spotlight after both Tim Davie and Deborah Turness forced to resign on the back of largely that Panorama episode about Donald Trump, where they doctored one of his speeches to make it look like he was inciting violence at the Capitol on January 2021. Donald Trump has clearly come out and said that he wants a full and fair retraction of the documentary by November 14th. Otherwise, he's going to launch a lawsuit for as much as $1 billion. Now, it's unclear at the moment exactly what he means by this, because I believe that the documentary itself has actually been taken down from iPlayer. It hasn't been there for quite a while, so we'll have to see the back and forth between the White House and the BBC on that one. Samir Shah, the chairman, has come out today and, as expected, apologised for the deceptive editing of that Panorama episode. But I think many people looking at this will think, and clearly Donald Trump is grabbing the headlines here, but it does go way beyond that. And we've heard today various apologies for several mistakes, as they've been called, which have happened under Tim Davie's watch. But at what point, and this is the question which people are asking and critics are answering, at what point do mistakes stop being individual blunders, but actually speak to a deeper, more systemic problem? And the problem which many people are pointing to, many of the opponents of the BBC, are institutional liberal biases. Sorry, I'm just getting a call. I'm going to have to try and
You're a popular man, Jack. You're a popular man.
Sorry, I was trying to work out how to get my my camera back. Am I back?
I think you're back now. It is mildly terrifying to people watching on a sort of widescreen television when you see your huge kind of almost it could be you sort of finger there. Maybe they'll win the lottery.
Sorry.
You cut you off in your prime there. You were saying.
No, I was just saying, and so the problem now is how the BBC goes around reassuring people that it is not just, institutionally liberal left wing as many of its opponents think it is.
And actually, so many of our viewers and listeners, Jack, saying this wasn't a mistake per se. A mistake is, using the conditioner when you meant to use the shampoo. This is actually something that many people will see as deliberately distorting the views and the words of the President of the United States a week before an election. Well, I don't expect it necessarily had much of an effect on the election, which he of course won. But the point is that this institutional bias is given succor through that, as well as the 19-page report in terms of things like Middle East bias, in terms of trans rights, lots of other ways in which this comes across, Jack.
Yeah, definitely. And, there are many journalists at the BBC that take their duty to impartiality incredibly seriously.
Absolutely correct.
Many of them are friends of mine and probably yours.
Yep.
And we get to know lots of them in politics. But there is a sense that lots of them who work at the BBC headquarters have all come from the same walks of life. They all believe exactly the same thing. And therefore, they don't seem to really take umbrage many of the things which most of the public will find totally awful. And that's why you get, the BBC almost eulogizing the son of a Hamas minister. It's why you get Bob Villan's anti-Semitic chants live streamed.
Jack, I was working for Newsnight in 2010 when the Labour leadership election was happening between David Miliband, Ed Miliband, Ed Bowles and Diane Abbott and Andy Burnham as well. And there was a senior person going around BBC Westminster at that point, at that time when that was happening, saying to people, who are you voting for? To which I said, hold on a second, don't you have to be a Labour Party member to do that? So, oh yeah, we're all Labour Party members. I mean, who are you voting for? I said, well, I'm not a member of any political party and I won't be voting for anybody. But I mean, there were literally about a dozen people and he was going around each of them saying who you're voting for. So, oh, maybe Ed Miliband, maybe Ed Bowles. That was the time, that was one of the number of things that happened when I was there that I just thought, this is outrageous. And actually, there were many people, as you correctly say, friends of mine, colleagues of mine, who are very impartial, who take it very, very seriously. When I was there, I took impartiality incredibly seriously as well, but that shocked me. Let me just ask you about one more thing before you go, Jack, which is the UK seeking Danish inspiration to shake up the immigration system. This is yet another perhaps solution or some form of amelioration for the major crisis in immigration. What are they looking for specifically in regard to what Denmark does and we don't currently do?
Well, Denmark seems to have really got radical with their deterrence, and so what they will do is things like try and make illegal migrants contribute, for example, to the cost of their benefits, to the cost of their hotels. If they are granted right to work in the UK and asylum status, they will make them pay back the costs of their hotels, benefits, whatever. They also don't have much truck with migrants coming sometimes with lots of jewellery. So they had a jewellery law, I think it was a few years ago, they brought it in, which seemed to be pretty successful, in which I think if you have necklaces, rings, whatever, over a certain amount when you come into Denmark, they will take that off you to go towards paying for your accommodation. Family reunion rights have been massively curbed in Denmark, so you can't bring people over to the UK, even if you are granted rights to remain. And so Siobhan Mahmood clearly wants to get tougher with our asylum policy. She's going to be laying out a package of measures later this month. And Denmark, I think she's looking at as a sort of blueprint for this. It's not going to be absolutely, a copy and paste job, but it will take influence from that. And the problem with this is that, yes, many right-minded people will think that this is a good thing to do, but already we're getting a few bits of clucking from people in her party backbenchers who will be a bit squeamish about doing stuff like this. So it's whether she can get it past the PLP, the Parliamentary Labour Party.
Of course. Jack, thank you. That's Jack Elsom there, political editor at The Sun.